Check it. I'm in a Yaktown. I'm in a 313 with my 30. I'm with a Ferrari. Okay.
When I was 15, my younger brother and I were left home alone. My younger brother was 13, and I guess our parents figured at that age we were fine to be left home alone while they went out. And honestly, both of us loved it. We would pretty much sit in the basement the whole time, playing the Wii and making ourselves a frozen pizza. I can remember this night.
Chat, what age is y'all leaving y'all kids home alone? What age is y'all leaving y'all kids home alone, chat? I don't know what age I would leave my kids home alone.
Almost perfectly. We were playing Mario Kart with those steering wheels you can attach to the Wii remotes. Now, this was back when almost every household had home phones. And so a rule my parents would always have is that we had to keep one of the phones next to us at all times in case they called. We had been home alone and down in the basement for around an hour when the phone went off. I looked at the caller ID and it was one of my friends from school. I picked it up and we started talking, but not even 10 seconds later I could hear breathing through the phone. Dude, is that you?
AKA, somebody's in the house. What did y'all know about house phones, bro? Like, I used to get jammed up on a house phone, chat. I ain't gonna lie. Shit is crazy. Like, I remember being young, and now this young, I mean like elementary school. Now, one thing about me, chat, I ain't gonna lie. I knew at a young, see, that's the one reason why, like, I understand what I'm trying to figure out how to say it without, you know what I mean? But I understand when people say you know your sexual orientation at a young age. Because when I was young, gang, I knew I liked girls. Like, for sure. First of all, when I was young, y'all ever heard of girls going, y'all ever heard of girls going wild? Bro, I used to tell girls in elementary school. I remember it was these two sets of twins too. It was, I think it did. I know one of them name was Kayla. I forgot what the other one name. It might have been Taylor or something like that. But it was these two twins, right? They was both feeling the nigga. You know what I mean? They was both feeling the nigga. You know what I'm saying? And I told the twins basically that I was one of the cameramen for Girls Gone Wild. And nigga, in the middle of class, like I said, elementary school gang, in the middle of class, Shorty pulled her skirt, and I looked down that motherfucker, and I think that was the first time I ever, I think that was the first time I ever seen a coochie. And I was like, what the fuck? Nigga, I used to get, I think I got jammed up more for girls when I was younger than when I was older, which is crazy. Well, it kind of makes sense, because older, wiser, you know what I'm saying? And all that. But, no, I'm saying like, whatchamacallit? Fuck. I remember it was this other girl too, who, whatchamacallit? It was this other girl, right? And she had a big crush on me, right? And I remember she wrote a note for me that my mother found, and she got wicked. It was funny though, now, especially now thinking about it, because she didn't know how to spell. So the note literally said, I remember this. I remember this, bro. Because that was like the first, like, crazy thing a girl has ever said to me. Or first crazy thing a girl has tried to say to me. Because, like I said, she cannot spell. But the note literally said, I like you. I want to have sat with you. SAT. Not SCX. SAT. And I forgot how my mother found it, but she was so pissed. I'm just like, mind you, I'm a kid. I didn't even know what the fuck she meant to say. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about real live elementary school gang. Like, real live elementary school gang. I did a lot of dumb ass shit when it came to girls in elementary. Nigga, I remember a girl came over my crib and we was chilling, da 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 da. Cause she basically, her peoples was cool with my peoples, right? So like every time we got out of school, she would come with us, and she would chill at my crib for a little bit until her mother get off and her mother would come pick her up, da da da, right? I remember, like I told y'all how the house is set up, right? So I told y'all as soon as I go up the steps, the first room straight ahead is my grandmother's room, right? I don't know why we was in my grandma's room or none of that, but I just remember, man, I was talking, and then they got to a point like I'm laid back on a bed, you feel me, and she just sitting on top of me, and my mother came upstairs and saw that shit. I'm like, oh my god, that shit was crazy. But no, I remember we was talking about house phones. That's how we got there. I remember like, um, I remember like being on the phone. Like I remember when I was younger, I used to be on the phone, elementary school still. Once again, I was a crazy kid. Don't worry about it. Elementary, I used to be on the phone with my homeboy. He was my best friend. You feel me? Like, damn, that's when like the word best friend actually meant something, chat. Like, I'm talking about me and him used to hang out every day, all day. Me and him was pissed if we didn't have the same classes in school, all that. Used to talk on phone. He was cool with my people. I was cool with his people. Like, I knew his mother. I knew his father. He knew my mama. He knew my grandmama. Like, that was really my dog for real. But I remember late night, me and him had this thing where like, if like it was a certain girl that like we wanted to talk to, but only one of us had their number, then one of us would start the call and call like the homeboy first, right? And then put them on hold, call the shorty, and merge the calls, you feel me? And that's what made me think of this because it was a lot of times like I'd be on the phone late at night, right? And I don't know if like now that I think about it, I don't know if my people like I don't know if they heard me or if like it was like a notification, like because it was a house phone in my grandmother's room, my mother's room, and in the living room. So when I wanted to talk to the girls, I used to go to the one in the living room. You feel me? And it was mad times I'm on the phone late at night with my homeboy and a girl or two or whatever. And out of nowhere, my mother would just pick up the phone and be like, boy, if you don't get off this phone this time of night, da 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 da. And I used to think that was so crazy that like you weren't a part of the phone call and yet you could just pick up and join that motherfucker. But now we got motherfucking iPhones and shit to where though you can join in on other people's FaceTime calls and shit like that. It's so crazy how technology got, man.
Explained to him that it wasn't, and that I could hear it too. It didn't stop, and so eventually my friend just told me he'd call me back later, as it was starting to freak him out. After I put the phone down, I told my brother what just happened. He looked at me, and his face went white. He asked me if it was possible that the sound was coming from our line, as we had a phone on every level of the house. This thought horrified me. I mean, it made sense, but that would mean someone else was in the house and picked up one of the phones either upstairs or on the ground floor. And so, of course, both of us got really paranoid and decided to search the house to put our minds at ease. We went upstairs to check the ground floor, but nothing. We then went up another floor, and what we saw left us completely speechless. A man in at least his 60s was standing with his back to us, hunched over the table with the phone. Instinctively, my brother and I looked at each other, turned around and ran as fast as we could out of the house's front door. We went straight to one of our neighbors' houses, slamming on the door and screaming. After they would open it up, as quickly as we could, we told them what we had just witnessed. And without hesitation, they called the police and then our parents. When the police arrived and searched the house, the man was found hiding in a closet near to where we had seen him. All I personally know for sure is that the guy was arrested. Everything else neither me nor my brother were informed of, even to this day.
Alright. Better than me. Okay. With the Ferrari?
I'm 25 and live alone in an apartment. Well, technically not completely alone. I have a dog named Max. He's great, but I'll often come home from work to find he's broken something or torn up another
And I really got plaques. I'm a real plaque boy, man.
part of my living room sofa. It finally got to a point where it was becoming an everyday occurrence, so I figured I had to do something about it. I looked it up online and came across the site that suggested getting your dog new toys. The idea being that it would keep him entertained enough to where he wouldn't cause any damage to the house. And so I tried it, but this didn't really work. I remember one night doing more research on the topic when I came across an ad for this pet camera. It was essentially a tiny camera that would record your pet on a live feed so you can monitor their behavior while you're away. It even had an audio function so that you can talk to them. The idea that this would actually help seemed like a bit of a stretch, but I figured at this point it couldn't hurt. I got overnight shipping and installed the camera immediately. I set it up in the living room to my apartment, as that's where Max spent most of his time. My first day at work, I probably checked the camera a good 20 times. And anytime I caught him scratching up the furniture, I spoke into the microphone, and it actually worked. Max would always stop in response to the noise. It was nice too, because anytime major movement was detected, I would get a notification, so it wasn't like I had to constantly be looking at my phone. By this point, it had been around a week since I purchased the thing, and it felt like the problem was pretty much solved. But this night is when things went south. I was lying in my bed, just on the edge of falling asleep, when my phone buzzed. It was a notification from the camera. I was almost sure it was some sort of malfunction, but I opened it anyway. What I saw caught me completely off guard. I saw an unknown man in a black hoodie walking around my apartment living room. He was slowly moving around, looking through various items on a shelf I keep next to the front door. Almost instantly, I got out of bed and locked the door to my bedroom. And I guess the guy must have heard me, as when I went back to my bed and checked my phone, the guy was gone, with the front door left wide open. I called the police immediately, and only when they arrived did I unlock my bedroom door. I explained everything I saw to the two officers that arrived, though I had no way of showing them the footage caught on the pet camera, as the thing literally had no feature that allowed you to go back in time and look at previous footage. It only showed a live feed, or at least from what I could tell. But, I mean, I got the thing for like $15.
And you don't think, let me just, let me just screen record this or something, knowing you're going to call the police, but you have no information to give them. Like, at that point, there's no point in calling the police. What the fuck are they going to do? That's saying, bro.
On Amazon, so I guess I got what I paid for. The only thing I could really show them was the notification I got on my phone, and realistically the most they could do was make a report, and that's what they did. Nothing was stolen, so I guess that's a plus. To this day, I honestly don't know how the intruder got through my front door and into my living room. From what I remember, I had locked the door when I got home from work, but either way, I'm just glad the camera notified me when it did. The way I look at it, there's a good chance that notification saved my life that night.
Probably. Okay. With a Ferrari?
This happened to me when I was around 8 or 9. It was summer, and both my parents were working at the time, so I was home alone. I remember sitting in our living room watching TV when I could hear the doorbell ring. And so curious at this point, I got up and without even looking first, opened the front door to see who it was. It was the mailman, or at least that's what the guy said. The guy claimed our address had received a package, but that he needed help carrying it. Even being as young as I was, I could tell something was off. The guy wasn't even wearing any kind of uniform, rather a dirty white shirt and jeans. He didn't even have a truck mailman would usually have, or at least from what it looked like. I asked him about it, and he responded with,
"Oh, yeah, it's just around the corner over there,"
and proceeded to point down the street. The guy kept pleading for me to help him, but
That don't sound a little wacky. A random man come and say he need help with a package, bringing a package, right? And then says he parked down the street. Wouldn't you park closer if you felt like you had a package to deliver and you needed help because it was heavy or whatever? That's a red flag already. But let's keep going, Chad.
after thinking it over, I realized I probably shouldn't leave the house. So, without saying anything, I shut the door on the guy and locked it. Right as I did this, the guy yelled out.
"Hey, aren't you gonna help me?"
I knew something wasn't right at that point, and so I ran all around the house to close and lock all the windows. Afterward, I called my dad and told him everything. While I was doing this, the man was still outside the front door, shouting that I needed to come help him. That's when I replied to the guy that my dad was coming home, and right when I said that, the guy ran off. My parents would inform the police about the situation, though the guy himself was neither caught nor identified.
I bet. I'm in the Yankee, I'm in the 313 my party. With the Ferrari. Okay.
This happened to my friend Ethan and I around a month ago now. We both live just outside Las Vegas, and this night we decided to take a drive out into the desert. The night was supposed to be completely clear, and we figured we could get some cool pictures of the stars while simultaneously getting my friend's dog outside the house. So, it was me, Ethan, and his dog. We drove in the middle of the desert for around an hour, when finally we arrived at this little overlook with a small parking area. Being that it was night, and pretty much in the middle of the desert, there were obviously no other cars except ours. We took pictures for a couple hours, until eventually deciding to call it a night. Ethan explained how he had to relieve himself, and told me to just wait in the car with his dog. And so that's what we did. We got in the car, and I locked the doors. I don't really remember why. I guess it was more so out of habit than anything. Anyway, I was on my phone, when outside the car I could hear gravel moving. Like, it was clearly footsteps walking up to the car. I thought it was Ethan, but it had only been like 20 seconds at this point. Suddenly, Ethan's dog started going crazy, barking and growling. I looked out the window to try and see what got him so worked up, and I quickly noticed some random guy that clearly wasn't Ethan. Right as I saw the dude, he started sprinting the rest of the distance to the car. The guy then attempted to put his hand through a half-open window in what I can only assume was an attempt to unlock the door. But right as he did this, Ethan's dog clamped onto the dude's hand. The guy yelled out a scream of pain, and by this point Ethan was now running back towards the car. Somehow, the guy was able to get his hand free, and proceeded to run into the darkness of the desert. Ethan and I both instinctively started chasing after the guy, but stopped only a minute in, realizing it wasn't worth it. We would ultimately call the cops and report what had just happened.
Why, if you hear a dog barking, what makes you think, let me reach in this car with my hand and try to unlock this door? Like, it ain't an obvious dog that know you're not anybody they know. Like, they ain't finna attack, bro. Maybe cause niggas is not playing no motherfucking kid games with no dog, bro. And when I say niggas, I mean niggas. I don't mean men. I mean niggas.
But all they really did was tell us to stay away from the area for the rest of the night. To this day, I have no idea who that guy was, or what his intentions even were. I don't even know where the guy came from. I mean, you gotta remember, we were in the middle of the desert with no civilization for miles. Ethan and I both agreed to never talk about it again. The whole situation was just too weird and unexplainable. I'm 20 and in college. I still don't know how, but somehow I was able to find a decently cheap studio apartment within a 10-minute drive from my school. Right as I saw it, I jumped on the opportunity. To be fair, it wasn't in the best part of town, so I guess that could have been why it wasn't absurdly expensive.
Fucked up there.
But ultimately, I figured because of the location, I'd purchase a camera and set it up in the apartment, more so for peace of mind. This brings me to Friday night.
My point right there. It's my point right there. Why are you going? What makes you feel okay to lay your head somewhere that is not a great area? Like, never mind.
I had just gotten back from school and was planning on heading right to bed. But before I could lay down, I noticed the light to the camera I had purchased was blinking. Now, before I go on, I have to explain how these cameras work. The cameras are connected to Wi-Fi, and basically they link to a website where by simply logging in, you're able to see a live feed from the camera. Though, whenever someone is currently logged into the website, a small light on the camera itself will blink. So, the fact that the light was blinking meant somebody was currently logged into my account and had access to the live feed it was producing. I quickly pulled out my phone to see if I had opened the website by accident, and the blinking was caused by me. But no, I had no applications open whatsoever. In a panic at this point, I frantically attempted to open the website. But that's when I realized I had been logged out. I practically ran to the camera and unplugged it, and later I would throw it out completely. I still don't know who was watching me, or how they could have gotten a hold of my login info for the website. But whoever it was changed my password, and for whatever reason was using the account to view the live camera feed of my apartment. I've since emailed the company, but have yet to get a response. As of right now, I'm still not even able to get into the account, as both the email and password were changed.
But how can you change it without having access to the person's email?
This happened to me around 2 months ago, and honestly ever since then I can't get it off my mind. I'm 35, and live with my wife and 2 dogs. We have 2 Labrador retrievers that are only like 2 and 3 years old. They aren't guard dogs by any means. To be completely honest with you, the house we live in isn't in the best neighborhood, so it would have been nice to have guard dogs, but me and my wife love them regardless. So, anyways, it was around 9 p.m. this night. My wife was working late, which left me home alone with the dogs. I was in the office playing some game on my computer, when I could faintly hear the dogs start to growl. At first, I just thought they were fighting with each other, but when I walked out of the office, I noticed both of them staring intently at the front door, and that's when I heard a faint knock on the door. Both the dogs' ears shot up, and my heart actually started to race. I couldn't imagine why someone would have been at the front door this late. I walked into the guest bedroom and looked out the window, as that room gave me the best view of the front porch. And standing on the porch were 2 men wearing all black, holding what looked like crowbars, or some type of blunt objects. I watched as the men then tried the door handle. But upon hearing this, the dogs started barking like crazy. This was honestly a surprise to me, as they almost never barked. In reaction, the men jumped back, looked at each other for a second, and then walked off. I instantly called my wife to warn her about the men. I still don't know what those guys' intentions were. They weren't selling anything, as they didn't stop at any of their houses. But to say I'm thankful for my dogs and scaring them off would be an understatement.